welcome back to In Pursuit Of. My guest today is Sahil Babbar, co-founder of Samarthya, and he is in pursuit of ensuring that people have greater opportunities to transform their destinies. What are the challenges that Samarthya faces as an organization which might be unique to your organization?
In the for-profit world, this term has existed, I think, for quite some time. It's called category creation. When e-commerce started, right, it was a category. The category for the market did not exist. The philanthropic market in India does not exist for the kind of work that we do right
Why?
now.
Isn't it under education?
It is under education, but the mandate of a CSR manager, let's say, is to show something that shows results very quickly and that shows results which are tangible. So if I have a classroom that needs painting, or if I go and raise money to, say, build toilets for girls, which is a very noble cause, the openness that I'll see will be significantly higher because it is short-term tangible. You can get pictures and the turnaround time is very less. And that's why a lot of the non-profits right now are also, and I think the for-profit and the non-profit are just behind each other, or sometimes, there's two steps ahead or behind. The conversation in the non-profit space a lot is around foundational literacy and numeracy. It's around life skills. Again, all of them noble causes and all of them deserve work. But the sensitization of the ecosystem, not only the funder ecosystem, but generally the entire ecosystem at large, the first sensitization level is that this is needed. That is the first. The other is this can be done. Initially, we have struggled a lot to raise money for our work. It has taken a lot of time for us to build our credibility. And now with this work happening in 3 states, more states are also starting to see it, and the cause is given more legitimacy.
Wow, I'm actually quite surprised because I would have thought that, working with SMCs or making them functional would be something that absolutely everybody would understand is really important. There's so many people who are funding, who are parents, and who would understand this, right?
I think the part where it gets tricky is that people do understand that this is important. But I think the question that people ask is that what you also asked at the beginning of this conversation is that what happens? What happens once an SMC is active? What happens once parents are participating?
Right. And you're saying that those things, the what happens takes a long time and they are not willing to wait for that long time.
Yeah. And also it's not standardized enough, and it's not limited to literacy, numeracy, and life skills, because if we started speaking in that language, we are also much more likely to raise funds. If we say, let's say, if you give us 3 lakh rupees per school, we will transform the learning of the school in 2 years. If that is your proposition, the amount of money that can come in, the probability of you getting that is much more higher compared to, for us as an organization, participation of parent is the end goal. But learning हो रही है या नहीं हो रही है, हमें लगता है ये तो होना ही है. This is like hygiene factor. It's like asking that what is the advantage of taking a bath every day? It's hygiene, right? It is the other way around. If you don't take a bath every day, you are susceptible to so many things.
Right.
So if the governance of our public schools is opaque, is centralized to one individual, let's say that there's a school which has a great school head and the school is doing great, but we know that in the 30-year period, the school head will be getting transferred at least once. And the school head, the teachers, all of them are transient for a school, but the community is not transient. The community has to own the school with them, and they have to ensure that nobody, no matter who comes in, there's a certain standard of education that is maintained, and their concerns and aspirations are always heard, whatever they may be. So I think just drawing the line between saying that participation is the end goal, that parents have these avenues and they are able to share those concerns and aspirations and they are acted upon. That for us is victory. After that, learning happens great. Which is not to say that we don't care about learning, but our goal is that.
Got it. So what keeps you motivated through this?
When I'm telling these stories, there's a pride in my heart. When we're seeing this change happen and we're seeing that states are now proactively doing it. I think Haryana is a very good example. Haryana as a state reached, they proactively said that, hey, we want to work on getting SMC formation correct. Can you come and work with us to ensure that happens? For example, the Nagaland, I told you, it's a World Bank funded project. So that's how the cause gets legitimacy. So we're seeing the beginnings of that, I think, that helps with these little success stories. And then I'm fortunate to have company of great colleagues, great people who work in the organization. Then there are friends, family, mentors.
Wonderful. And what is your vision for Samarthya?
To create this category of participation, of shared ownership of public education in the Indian ecosystem. I think I have limited understanding of the education space, but from whatever understanding I've had in the last 10 years now, is that early 2000s to actually till 2013, 14, it was about access. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan made that possible. A school in every neighborhood. I taught for 2 years in a low-income government school in East Delhi. That school was in a tent. Then the next decade, which is like from 2013, 14 onwards, it became about student outcomes, about learning outcomes, and then the language evolved, and now for the last few years, life skills has been
Taken over.
a global phenomenon, and it's a theme that people are working on, and it's great that all of this evolution is happening. And similarly, now I think I want shared ownership of public schools as the next theme that catches on, where participation of all the stakeholders who are impacted by a decision around a school is not the exception, it's the norm. I also like to see Samarthya replicate these principles of how to get people to participate in governing a public institution across sectors. So it's not only education, right? There are village health committees, there are forest right committees, there are water conservation committees, there are committees in ITIs. So fortunately, the law always, the policy on paper is very democratic. And I think how do you make that democracy happen on ground is the game.
Democratization of all different things in, just say, in one community. That itself, if that can happen, really, it's so empowering. But Sahil, how did you get into this? How did you end up starting Samarthya?
I was teaching in a low-income government school in Northeast Delhi, and I think the question that bugged me a lot was that how come these 49 kids, how come they have access to a teacher who's just like paying attention and making an effort? I was by no means a great teacher, but just that, whatever I was doing, how come that they get it, and what have the children in the classroom next door or in the next school done so wrong? What can a 7-8 year old do so wrong to not have that? That is where it all started from. That and I almost sometimes felt guilty for not doing anything for the kids next door. So I think a nightmare scenario for me is that 10 years from now, if I meet a parent whose child is now grown up and we're having a conversation, and that parent says कि हमारे पास तो पैसा नहीं था, तो हमें तो बच्चे को सरकारी स्कूल में ही डालना था, और सरकारी स्कूल तो ऐसे ही चलते हैं, हम क्या कर सकते हैं? ये हम क्या कर सकते हैं का जवाब देना है मेरे को, का प्रैक्टिकल वायबल जवाब देना है कि आप कुछ कर सकते हो. प्रेजेंट डे पे बताना पड़ेगा, तभी वो जवाब बदलेगा फ्यूचर में. दैट इज माई फियर, दैट दिस आई डोंट वांट दैट टू हैपन. एजेंसी एंड द ability of people to shape their own lives and their own destinies, if that is taken away, even for myself, I think that is my biggest fear and that is my biggest motivating factor as well. And I think that is what got me into it. And along with, of course, there were hardly any non-profits who were doing this in particular in depth. A lot of nonprofits work on school management committees as part of their entire whole school transformation program, and it's one of the things they work on. There was need, there was opportunity. So,
Very
yeah.
nice. And maybe that explains why, when you said that there's space to do this, is that that explains why funders are unable to see it as clearly, because there's no precedence.
Correct, yet.
Right? Not enough precedence or no precedence at all for them to know how powerful it would be.
Correct, yeah.
You
Yet,
see?
I think, yet, there's no precedence yet.
Yes, that's what. So, Sahil, that was really nice. Thank you so much for sharing so much about your organization. And it was indeed a pleasure talking to you. And we will continue this conversation, but a little later. Thank you so much for watching In Pursuit of. Keep watching until our next conversation with Sahil Babbar of Samarthya.